Welcome to the Thumb Strong podcast. A little different setup today because it's just Bethany and I.
Small.
DeLorean is taking a full-time firefighter job, and he just moved to Alpena. Monday. So it's just going to be Bethany and I for the foreseeable future until we have some special guests or potentially another coach in the future. So today we're going to dive into our M3 nutrition coaching system. So we have put together, basically it's a 12-month nutrition coaching system or nutrition system with 3 phases to it to help people heal their digestive system, their metabolism, kind of reset, and then work your way all the way through to whatever goal you have. Primarily it's built for fat loss and muscle gain. So today we're going to dive into the first phase, which is M1 of the nutrition system. So Bethany, go ahead and kick us off with kind of an overview of what the M1 is.
Yeah, the M1, it's primarily focusing on your metabolism. So your metabolism is obviously working at all time. It's not like it's an on-off switch. However, there's ways that you can improve that through improving the functioning of your body, your hormones, things like that. So what we really focus on is priming your body before focusing on, hey, I want to lose as much weight as I can. It's instead, okay, how do we set yourself up to have a long and successful nutrition and health journey with it?
Yes.
So just to go into the why of it a little bit. So again, most people jump straight into cutting calories or doing something very restrictive, pushing harder in workouts, like doing an extreme amount of working out, something like that, trying to push when it's maybe not the best time to push.
Mm-hmm.
But if things like hormones are a little bit out of whack, your diet's been off for a while, you don't have good energy, maybe brain fog, blood sugar's kind of off, digestion might be a little bit off, and like your gut microbiome. So your body fights against you a little bit or just makes it a little bit harder to stick with.
Yeah.
So, either plateauing or you restrict for a little bit, but then you can't hold on to that any longer. And then you go back to how you were eating.
Yeah.
And so it's just, that's where like the yo-yo diet comes in with that.
Yeah. Well, and when we were first going through this and putting together, because we actually got this whole system idea from another gym owner who has done this with thousands of people he had like at one point 10 locations here in Michigan. And what made so much sense to me is this first phase is all about resetting and healing the metabolism first.
Yeah.
And what made sense to me is the majority of people, if not all the people that we work with that are struggling with nutrition and struggling with losing body fat, is they've been eating highly processed food for a long time, probably not super healthy. And so that's just wreaking havoc on our digestive system, on our microbiome, on our metabolism. So it's usually kind of shot. So that's why even when you start eating better, you're not getting the results you're really looking for right away. Because first we've got to, okay, let's heal from within and reset that metabolism so that we're priming our body for fat loss. Yeah. So it's almost like you got to heal first before you can actually dial in the numbers to sustain fat loss long term.
Yeah, and there's like little things that you can change first that are going to help you more long term rather than being super restrictive right away.
Right.
Just building those baseline of habits. So the biggest thing of why we do a little bit more of the habits based at first and just focusing on whole foods and getting more of those into your diet is because the research has shown that when somebody has a diet of ultra processed foods, it leads just to more calorie intake and more weight gain. I mean, people ate anywhere from 500 to 700 more calories a day without even trying when they're eating an ultra processed diet versus a whole foods diet. Yeah. Even when, macros are all accounted for. So say they made sure that the protein amounts were the same, that the percentage anyway, so percentage of diet of protein that's based off calories, and then fats and carbs, it was all the same. So it's not like one group was doing low carb and one was doing lots of carbs. It's not any changes like that. It was just the fact of one's very processed and easy to eat and very tasty and delicious, and then the other is just a whole foods based diet. And so it just shows that those diets rich in whole minimally processed foods unintentionally makes you eat less, and then also helps improve your insulin resistance, different blood lipid profiles, inflammation markers compared to processed diets.
Yep, 100%. And you already kind of went into it, but during phase 1, that first 4 weeks, what are we focusing on primarily for those first 4 weeks, Bethany?
The first focus is whole foods, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
We recommend, having 90% of your diet whole foods, as minimally processed as you can. I mean, processing is even just a canned beans or frozen vegetables is technically a processing, which is, it's going to happen. Like there's going to be some level of processing, but it's more so avoiding the more heavily and ultra processed foods. The best example, like you used this example before, was the apple, right?
Yeah.
Like you do.
Yeah, you've got, so like obviously you start with apple juice. That'd be the most highly processed version. It's stripped of all of its nutrients and fiber. And, it's basically just an apple flavored sugar drink.
Yeah.
And then you have like applesauce, which has a little bit more of the nutrients there, but it still doesn't give you the full nutritional value. It's going to be higher in sugar. And then you've got your apple. Obviously, the apple is going to be the number one choice there, the most minimally processed, zero processing. So that's what we mean by whole foods. Try to just get essentially as close to a single ingredient food as you can. Would be like the best recommendation. And the reason that we're shooting for 90% whole foods for that first 4 weeks is because that's kind of the healing process of our digestive system and our metabolism to set us up for when we really dial everything in and start to implement other strategies to maximize long-term fat loss and muscle gain so that you can sustain the goals that you're actually trying to achieve, and not just lose 20 pounds in the first 4 weeks and then put it right back on 4 weeks later.
Right. Yeah. The studies consistently show that whole food diets improve your insulin sensitivity and your metabolic health, and that high intake of any ultra processed foods that just increases your risk of metabolic syndrome and obesity. So it's just been clearly shown and studied time and time again. Like that's a big component of it.
Yeah.
The next is hydration, sleep, and movement. So very basic habits that improve your metabolic health. So good sleep that improves your insulin sensitivity, reduces your stress hormones, so better hormone balance. You have better leptin and ghrelin regulation, so that's the hunger and satiety hormone. So whether you feel more hungry or more satiated by your food can be impacted just by how much you sleep or how well you sleep.
Yeah. And just drinking of water too. Like a lot of people, if they might mistaken hunger for actually they're dehydrated. So sometimes if you're like, man, I really want a snack right now, or I'm kind of hungry, and maybe you just had a meal an hour ago or something, just try drinking like a glass of water first. And then if you're still hungry, then maybe have a snack. But a lot of times people just don't drink enough water. So
let's see. And it also helps to support digestion too, and your overall energy. Daily movement is the other cornerstone. So it enhances your insulin sensitivity. So like whatever carbohydrates you do eat or food you do eat, it's better at taking those nutrients and shuttling them where they need to go instead of like letting it floating around in the bloodstream or going to fat or something like that. So it just improves your metabolic flexibility or your metabolic health, right? And so even light walking just makes a difference. Like taking a walk after a meal dramatically improves your insulin sensitivity and the blood sugar response after eating a meal. Mm-hmm. So that's another good thing to start implementing with that. Another big part of it is we're not diving into calories just yet in this phase. And it's to build the habits that make calorie tracking easier, because if you jump right to calorie tracking, it can work for some people and that's fine, but it's almost better to start here first because it's smaller little changes that you can make before having to obsess over everything that you're putting in, right? It's not as meticulous. And then sometimes when people they're focusing on 10 different things at once, it's too much. And it's easier just to focus on a few things at a time, get really good at that, or at least improve in that area, and then start adding the other things in.
Yep. Last couple of things. Obviously, it's going to help with blood sugar and digestive reset, as we've mentioned. So you're going to have reduce high glycemic spikes, support your gut health. The other thing is reduced inflammation of the body. So a lot of people, when they eat really highly processed foods, they tend to have a lot more inflammation build up. So a lot of people complain about maybe their joints really hurt, their back hurts, everything they do is kind of just achy. That's because there's a lot of inflammation built up in the entire body. So that'll help reduce that inflammation. And if you feel a little better, then you're more apt to doing more too. So we're implementing daily movement. We're most of the time with our clients, we're implementing strength training. That stuff's actually going to not only help, but with the nutrition kind of in conjunction with it, you're going to feel way better. I mean, you're just going to move better, feel better, less aches and pains and joints issues. So it's good all the way around in just that first 4 weeks. So that's kind of some of the benefits that you're going to start to see, and we'll get into some more benefits that you can expect in that first phase. So
yeah, absolutely.
What are people going to see mostly?
They're going to be more consistent energy throughout the day, so you're going to have less like energy ups, highs, and lows, reduce bloating and better digestion. Fewer cravings, just because you're not going to be eating as many of those processed foods, leads to having less of them, actually leads to having less cravings over time. Mm-hmm. And then you have better sleep, better mood, since everything is supporting that. You have a metabolism that feels like more responsive, and so it helps when you do shift into the next phase. And then it helps to reduce any risk of metabolic dysfunction in the future too, just by really having those foundations set from the first phase. And that's the biggest thing that people notice at first when they start doing all of this is I always ask, how do you feel? And they're like, oh, well, I feel great. Like I feel better. I have more energy and blah, 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 all this. And even if like the scale's not dropping 15 pounds in the first month, which is maybe what people want, but they feel better. And that's the goal of this. Is like, I don't expect you to lose 15 pounds in the first month. I'd rather have you feel better in the first month and build off of that, and then lose 15 pounds over the next few months.
Yep, 100%. And this phase, it is actually 12 weeks. We just wanted to dive into the basis of the whole foods. So we start with that 90, 10% or 90% whole food, maybe 10% of it's kind of whatever you would enjoy or a little bit more processed food. And then we go into a produce goal. So basically expanding on the whole foods. So we do have a little bit of changes and adaptations throughout the 12-week journey of that first phase. But why it works, so the evidence and the mechanisms. Number one, improved insulin sensitivity. So about half of our nation is insulin resistant, which is basically that precursor for prediabetes and diabetes. So it's the inability to be able to actually utilize and shuttle all our carbohydrates in the right spot. So that's why we end up storing a lot of it as body fat. So by improving that, we're basically able to function more properly.
Yes.
So that's kind of the first one. Also, we have the thermic effective food. So by eating more whole foods, it actually takes a lot more for your body to be able to break down and utilize and shuttle those nutrients to the right places. Whereas ultra processed food, especially very simple carbohydrates, so when you think of like candy and cereals and things like that, it's almost immediately broken down and just shuttled away. And that's where you have that spike in that blood sugar. But you also don't actually burn as many of the calories simply breaking it down. Mm-hmm. So what people don't understand, like protein, for example, actually takes a lot of calorie expenditure to break it down into those amino acids to utilize. So by eating more whole foods, your body actually burns calories, breaking it down and utilizing those calories, which is interesting. The gut health and microbiome, if you want to go into that one, and then the other two, then we'll go into the practical steps at the end.
Yeah. Biggest thing with this is you get more fiber-rich, unprocessed foods in the diet that helps to support the beneficial microbes and bacteria that are in your gut. And those gut bacteria have been shown to either help or hinder your fat loss efforts and your metabolic health in general. So you can improve insulin sensitivity and your metabolism just through that by giving your body better fiber, and that's the food for the good bacteria.
You might. I think you should mention. We talked about it last week. The bacteria that live in your gut that are basically like craving those sugars. So,
yeah. So there's the gut-brain axis. So the vagus nerve connects the brain and the gut, and so they're talking to each other constantly. If there's bacteria in there that are feeding on sugars, so if you're eating a lot of sugar in your diet, it's going to be thriving in your gut. Whatever you feed it more, those types of bacteria are going to be thriving more, right? And so then if they start to die off, that's why you get sugar cravings. So the bacteria is like, no, we don't want to die. Give us more sugar so we don't die. And then we can still keep living and growing. And so that's why the stronger cravings get sent to your brain. But then after a few weeks, they've all kind of died off after you cut it out for a while. Yeah. And then same thing for the good things is the more the good foods you eat, the more the good bacteria can grow.
And then, like personally, you learn to enjoy those foods.
Yeah,
like, you'll eventually you're like, oh wow, that's really good, So it's an adjustment. It's not like you hate certain foods and you love certain foods. It's kind of like the more you put in, the more you're going to adjust and get used to and enjoy actually. So, I think we can kind of wrap up with some practical steps. So implementation. So obviously this is what we coach, but just to give you guys some kind of steps on this, if you were to start to make some changes on your own, step one is going to be choose whole food options. So minimally processed or single ingredient, protein, carb, fat, vegetables. Step two, remove those processed foods, sugary snacks, ultra processed meals. Step three, build 1 to 2 habits. So we really focus on water, so hydration. We focus on daily movement. So even if you can just go out for a walk after lunch, after dinner, or anytime during the day, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes, it's still better than nothing. And then the other thing is going to be sleep. So try to prioritize your sleep regimen. Even if you can't necessarily get 8 hours every night, you can still set yourself to have better quality sleep. So maybe it's turning off the TV before bed, limiting caffeine in the afternoon, those types of things. Step 4, prep for ease. So do batch cooking, simple meals, have healthier snacks that you always have access, or take them on the go with you. That way, if you do have a craving, or if you're like, oh, I'm hungry, I want to go through fast food, it's like you've got these snacks to kind of hold you over so that you can avoid those temptations. This is really good for like busy people on the go. If they don't have time to eat lunch, sometimes if they miss dinner, you want those snacks. And then step 5 is focus on consistency over perfection. So track your habits, not your calories, kind of like what Bethany was talking about. We want to get into the habit of these things before we worry about really diving into the macros and the calories and stuff like that to make it easier. And the other thing is just celebrating your small wins. So if you did go maybe with the whole day eating, 3 great whole food meals, like celebrate that. Get excited for yourself. If you went out for your first walk, maybe you finished your first week, you want to really recognize that and give yourself praise for that. So if you are interested at all in this type of nutrition coaching, or if you need help, maybe you've done some yo-yo diets in the past and nothing's worked for you, we would love to sit down and just have a conversation to see if this could be a good fit. You'll be working with Bethany one-on-one. She meets with her clients every single month to do a body scan and go over your results and talk about the next phase and how everything's going. She also checks in every single week just to see, hey, how did this week go? Is there anything that we need to adjust or focus on for next week? So you're getting that constant attention and accountability to help you stay on track, which is probably the hardest part for most people, right?
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So thanks for listening. Hopefully this is helpful. Next week, we're going to go into phase 2 and talk about phase 2 of the nutrition system. And then the following, we'll talk about phase 3. And like I said, if you have any questions on it, or if you're interested, let us know. Stay healthy, try out some of these habits, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll see you in the next one.